An alle Frauen, die gesagt haben, mir fehle das gewisse Extra. Ich hab's jetzt. Von Sinalco. Und euch gebe ich nix davon ab.
Hast du's auch schon? Sinalco extra fruchtig. Jetzt in 3 leckeren Sorten mit 10% Frucht. Gönn dir dein Extra.
Die Sinalco schmeckt.
Und jetzt neu. Sinalco extra zuckerfrei. 0% Zucker, 100% Geschmack.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this program about your Kundalini awakening and activation experiences. My name is Chrism, and I'm one of your hosts for this program today. The other host is Santara Kundalini, and she will be on in a moment. And I just want to say welcome to you listening on the telephone, listening in the chat room. Hello, everybody there. Andrew, Tanjira, and VECCHOMO, whatever that means, or just a second here. Nara, honey bunny. No, that's not a good time for that. Sorry, it's a big German Shepherd wanting to chew on something very noisy. So welcome everybody, and welcome to everybody in the future, the archives people. Come here. This is not the time for that. Thank you. Sorry, folks. It's always something fun here. I hope you're okay with it. I hope you're good with it. I have a living household here. We have Lasha is over there on the couch, and Anara is right on the other side of the couch. And we have plants, we have Sri Yantras, all of it. And it looks like the sound is coming through well. So I would also like to say, as I've been trying to do, welcome to everybody in the archives, the future people calling in, and welcome to people on Facebook who are listening to the program via the Facebook triangular button that Santara Kundalini has so kindly installed on many of the groups, if not all the groups, I think. So hello, everybody. I see a lot of phone calls coming through now, and so pretty soon we'll know who's calling there. And I want to just go ahead and start. Now, I want to talk with you today in this conversation about healing Mother Earth. And I think I may have touched on this in other conversations, but this came to me last night as I was, I was reminiscing on the levels of love and the levels of extreme violence that is practiced here on this world, certainly with humanity, but also through many different levels of example on the surface by the environment as well. This is a predatory planet. And humanity has the ability to evolve on this planet in a very rapid format way, as I've discussed in other programs, with regards to its spiritual evolution coming up through the levels of the law of the jungle, the might is right, the strong survive type of scenario. Coming up through those laws and coming into the divine laws of karma and spiritual evolution and Kundalini activation into Kundalini awakening, and from Kundalini and awakening into the levels of enlightenment, as the Kundalini is given to express through us. And so what we need to begin to understand is that violence has to get worked through, and one of the ways that it gets worked through is through its expression. Humanity, along with some other species, are one of the species that will really prey upon itself. not so much in the physical way of eating each other, although that has been fairly popular in the far, far distant prehistoric past, and on up into some of the current races of humanity. Thinking of the Congo right now, the in the middle of Africa, you still can go in there and get kidnapped and tied up and basically have somebody use a magic marker pin to isolate the organs that are going to be sold to whoever wants to eat your organs. Your arm, you can have your arm isolated, or any of the body parts can be isolated and chosen by specific purchasers for human consumption. And this is not the first time this is done. This is, maybe the first time they used a magic marker, but it's not the first time that this world has seen cannibalism as an alternate form of procuring food. We have to understand that through our differences and our desires to survive, very specific levels of violence have been incurred upon each other, human on human. And you can just, you can see it every day here. People going around shooting each other, or people going, these are tendencies that individuals have to work through, but also wars. You look at in Europe, you have all these different wars happening in the last 200 years. In the United States, even with the United States here, people came from Europe and began to dominate the Native Americans, and that big war ensued there. And then, of course, you had the war of North and South, of the Confederacy and the Union, and people preyed on each other in those wars, and then all the way up through World War I, World War II, the Korean conflict, the Vietnam conflict, the Iraq conflict, the Afghanistan conflict, and so on and so forth. People are preying on each other's physical mortality. We're killing each other. And at the same time, these people that are being killed, they're spending a number of years being raised by parents that are loving them. Not all of them, for sure, but I would give a majority of them are being raised by parents who care about them, who are loving them, who are feeding them, who are nurturing them, teaching them how to survive on this world, only to see them die in these conflicts that claim the lives of so many. And on it goes. And, I don't know if you've heard of a puppy mill, but a puppy mill in the United States is basically an operation that gets dogs pregnant as many times as they can, and she'll have a litter of puppies, and so they'll have this huge amount of puppies, and it's like a mill, and people make their profit on as many puppies as they can sell. And it's the same thing with any kind of a scenario. Here in this world, the analogy I'm using with the puppy mill is we are a divine mill. We are slowly, purposefully moving through the levels of brutality, of violence, of love to violence, and violence to love, moving through these plateaus of refinement that really is so important to move through. And this world contains it. Now, I'm not just going to say, Earth is the only place that this is happening. That's not so. This is happening all over the multiverse. There are very specific planes of existence where this is allowed to occur. Earth is one of the faster schools because it is so predatory. I look at Lasha, I'll take Lasha out, and she'll go outside, she'll meet me somewhere. And, if she catches something, she's going to play with it to death. It it is going to die this terrible, terrible death, because that's how she practices her skill sets at hunting and containing and killing and these of this nature. And the same with the dog. The dog will probably not play with it so long. Orcas, those killer whales, also do the same thing, teaching their young to hunt. They injure the seal, but not too much, just enough so that the young whale can learn how to catch it and to learn and develop those different techniques. And it's about death. And, it's not really so much about the compassion of the one that's being hunted. The killer whales aren't going, oh, that poor little seal. They're not doing that. They're going, oh, yeah, that's going to taste really good. And Lasha's the same thing. My cat, she's going to be going, oh, yeah, I will play with this and play with this and play with this. And finally, I'm going to consume this. And so on and so forth with human beings, because we have, in our society, we have taken out the, one of the options of just, itinerantly killing people within certain societies. I'm sure that if you look at the Europeans coming onto this continent, the North American continent, and treating the Indians, the Native Americans in a very, very, very cruel and hurtful way, and vice versa too. The Native Americans treating the European settlers in a very similar fashion. And this is about violence. It's about violence and then getting through violence. And when it's violence on human upon human, a person can only receive so much bloodletting in their life before they begin to connect the dots. They begin to realize that all humans bleed red. All ideologies change and shift over time. An enemy that was, our worst nightmare 20 years ago is our best friend and business partner today. You can see that with the Japanese, from the World War II, and, let's kill the Japs and all of this type of racial stuff. Let's, and the same thing, I'm sure, on the other side towards the Europeans and the Americans. Right now, people are visiting Japan, and, I drive a Japanese car, for crying out loud. This times shift and people move away from these patterns of hatred and violence and bloodletting. It's very important for people to understand that this earth provides an opportunity for people to move through these areas. People need to understand that this earth is a classroom, and when we look at it, we look at the environment, and we look at different species eating each other in order to live. As I mentioned before in my argument against veganism, life consumes life, but humans don't consume life as they fight each other. Not so often are you seeing people going out onto a war field and picking out the choicest cuts of human meat that can be found on the battlefield. This is not typically what we're doing in our evolution at this point. There may have been that happening in prehistoric times. However, you only have to look as far as the Maori in New Zealand. And they're not so much doing that now anymore, but they used to. And of course, the current people in the Congo and perhaps in other countries that are also doing this right now. And so it's important for people to realize that this is the proving ground. This is the proving ground. Okay, it is a place where we're allowed to work through the issues that block our evolution, our spiritual divine transformation. This is the place where we're given the opportunity to do this. And we will take life after life after life after life to do it. Okay? We'll be given circumstances that allow us to repeat whatever classes and whatever lessons we need to learn in order to allow this divine evolution to occur. This earth can hold us and can handle us. You've got to understand that the earth, if it wanted to, as a consciousness, as a planetary consciousness, the earth could wipe us out in a day. It could take these 10 billion human beings and wipe them out in a day. Or even longer, if it wanted to take longer, it could just unleash a virus. That's it. That's all it would take. Or explode enough of volcanic ash into the atmosphere to create another ice age, and that would definitely cut down the population. You've got to understand that there is more consciousness that is self-aware than science is willing to admit. I had a interview with a person, trying to get scientific data to prove the existence of Kundalini. Pardon that noise right there. And it's a very, very small window of opportunity to find any kind of scientific data that will prove Kundalini. Until we develop the Kundalini-ometer, well, there's just not going to be that much. And so for those of us who have reached that plateau of becoming enriched with divinity and transformed by divinity, we have to go beyond the scientific prove it, measure it, replicate it type of scenario. And this world is that. This world is this place where we can do that. It's very important for people to understand that the way we can save this world is by coming into the Kundalini and taking ourselves out of that jungle mentality, the only the strong survive mentality, taking ourselves beyond the need to express ourselves in violent patterns of behavior. This is what Kundalini does. I mean, for those of us that have the Kundalini, we understand the concept of ahimsa, ahimsa. Okay, ahimsa. Do no harm, do not kill. This type of a mentality brings us to another level of life expression upon this world. And, as you have the Kundalini and as you go into the environment and as, the butterflies are landing on you, the bees and the wasps are landing on you, the snakes are coming up your feet, all of which I've had happen. The bird, you can feed the birds with your hands, wild birds. This is the understanding, and it's in a way they are telling you, the creatures of the forest, the creatures of the jungle, the creatures of the ocean are telling you that yes, this is where my species wants to go too. The bird species want to evolve towards the divine. The octopi species in the ocean want to evolve towards the divine. The whale species, the dolphin species, all the cetaceans, all the different animal representatives on this world, whether it's in land or sea or air, want to evolve towards divinity. Okay, and as we do this, as humanity is given this special place, this special time, on this special planet to do it, they come to us. The animals will come to us and in a way communicate to us that, yeah, this is the direction, this is the path. And I want you to encourage yourself to do this as well. Really begin to come into this and look at it and try not to objectify the planet into a victim. This planet is incredibly strong, and it is not a victim. It is our mother on one hand, and it is a symbol of the Divine Mother on the other hand. I mean, we are the bodies that we occupy are made up of this planet. Every fiber, every every hair, every skin cell, blood cell, lymph cell, everything is drawn from this world. And so as this world goes, so do we go in a very real way. And so it's important for people to understand that. The earth is not a victim. Now, we can mess it up, and we'll have to, live in that nest if we mess it up. But it is not going to be the end of the world. The world will continue. It may continue just without us. So it's very important to see. Now I've been kind of guided to go into how this works. Sometimes it takes an extreme level of love to push people into extreme levels of violence. And it is the love that is teaching us that we need to clear this out of our system. We need to get it out. And so you become a soldier. You become a soldier and you go to war. And you kill and you kill and you kill, and you're surrounded with death. You're surrounded with the destruction of human life. And, you're surrounded in so many forms of bloodletting that you eventually begin to understand the wastefulness of it, the indecency of creating a scenario of violence that has no way of staying very long. It's a very transient thing before you begin to understand that your enemy isn't really your enemy. Your enemy is your brother. Your enemy is your sister. Your enemy is part of your family. And as I said before, we all bleed red. And there are far more similarities in who we are than differences, far more. Ideological differences are very, very ephemeral. They disappear quickly and are replaced by some other ideology. And so it's very important for us to understand that as we come into the Kundalini, our trajectory is beyond the coarse and very, very difficult refinements of war, of being thrust into violent expressions of domination. What we're thrust into is self-correction. We're thrust into very, very strong levels of self-correction, and it's those self-corrections that begin to help us understand where divinity is guiding us to go. Even if we don't believe in the D word, the divine, our compulsions will compel us to begin to understand other people rather than compete with them. To begin to have compassion and care and happiness and love and harmony with other races and other cultures instead of trying to dominate them or change them into our culture. It's very important for us to understand and to realize that this is the trajectory. And I'm looking here on the chat room here, and Tim Ashworth says, "My enemy is my brother." And then he says, "At the moment." We're surrounded by people that live in that at the moment. We're surrounded by people that, because of the fear of loss and the want of gain, well, they may become so fearful that somebody else is going to replace what they need, what they feel they need to survive, and then they'll attack them for that survivalist attitude. And it's the same thing as want of gain. They may want to take somebody else. It's like the Croatians wanted to split up Bosnia between themselves and the Serbs and forget about the Bosnians. Who cares about them? We'll just take their land and we'll kill them, which is what happened in Mostar, that city of Mostar that I visited and that I've done a video with. They decided they wanted to make that land grab, and they didn't care how they were going to do it, and they actually wanted to commit the violence. And it's very interesting to visit a society that is run by its elder community, elder now, because back in the 1990s they were in their late 20s to their 40s, and the generals were, of course, were in their early 50s. And this was a society that decided to go to war to take something that wasn't theirs. And so when you visit Croatia, you come in contact with some of these folks. It's a very, very, very different type of interaction that you'll have with them, because they still have that quality within them. And as Kundalini people, we need to be able to recognize that and see that and understand that and learn from that, so that we no longer fall into the trap, that one area of ego capitulation where might is right, where, hey, we've got the ability to make war on another person or another country, and we can just take what they have and forget about their suffering, forget about their families, forget about, their lives or their mortality or their pain or their suffering. Forget about that. Just as long as I get their house, and I'm fine. That type of attitude, we need to be able to see that and reverse that thinking within ourselves. Self-correct that. Nothing that somebody else has belongs to us, because even what we have doesn't even belong to us. Once again, the Kundalini descended upon me this morning and basically saying, hey, I was in the bathroom, and she's saying to me, she's like, this is all borrowed. Everything you have is borrowed. There's nothing that you own on this world. Not one thing gets to come with you when you die. When you move into your next expression, not a single thing of what you've been fighting so hard to keep, willing to spill somebody else's blood over, do you get to keep. Nothing is yours. Nothing. And this is one of the big admonitions of Kundalini, is to move beyond possession of things. Move beyond the attachments of things. Move beyond it, because none of it's yours. You can get attached to it all you want, but it's not going to serve you one bit. The only thing that will really, really serve you is helping other people, is expressing love and care and kindness and helpfulness for other people. That propels you forward within divine evolution, and that you do get to take with you. And the Kundalini will come with you as well. But your car's not going to come with you. You should, I wish, for those of you that can see entities, go out to an auto dismantler sometime and see how many souls are standing next to the car that they cherished for so many years and that they died in. Go out and look and feel the ghosts of an auto dismantler, or I don't know what they call them, a auto recycler. Here in California, they call them auto dismantlers. And you have these rows and rows of cars that have either just quit, or they've been in accidents, or you can actually see hair, a person's hair embedded into the windscreen in some of these vehicles. Pleasant thought, eh? And you look at these entities, and they're just there. They're just standing stoically there because they were so attached car that it's making it difficult for them to move on. You don't get to take any of this with you. And so there's no reason to harbor fear of loss and want of gain, because the only gain you're going to get is through being helpful and kind to other people. Now, of course, if you're mean and belligerent and you'll develop that karma too, and that will be returned to you. There is some sort of a bank there too, but in what she was telling me, the Sacred Feminine was telling me this morning, is to let go of the fear of loss and the want of gain, as I discussed in last week's program. You don't need to kill people for money. or for their big screen TV. Not that any of you listening to this are doing that, but you see it around you a lot. You see that I have might, and therefore I will take what I want, and regardless of how anybody else feels about it. You see this around you in society quite a bit, and you know it would be happening more if there were not laws against it, and if there wasn't, some sort of a strict punishment to be had against it. People would just be doing it. It was, in today's contemporary society, certainly within, like, say, Western Europe and United States, and Canada, less so in Mexico right now, less so in some parts of South America, where brutality still reigns supreme. Let's look at Mexico, and let's look at the drug lords there, and basically doing anything they can do and killing anybody they want to kill because they want money, or they want some sort of control vector to inflict their superiority on other people. This is what we're moving away from with Kundalini. And it's really a good place to learn. This planet is perfect. To be surrounded by an environment that will kill you to take your protein. You go lay down in the forest, and eventually a coyote or a wolf or a mountain lion or a bobcat or a bear, or if you're in Florida, a python or crocodile or an alligator, they'll come along and they will take you for your protein, for the protein that your mother and father created in all those years of raising you. They will take you for your protein, and this allows you to understand that even your body, you don't take with you. It's not saying, it's certainly not, and unless you're being fear tested by the Kundalini, or you're inside of a chode, like Centaur's experienced, where you're at the mercy of the environment. And, hers was a pretty safe mercy, though. I mean, they don't have a lot of large predators in Ireland. But if you were in Asia or Africa or Florida or some of the wilder parts of the planet, it could be a very dangerous thing to tie yourself down and scream at the gods to kill you, to take you, to transform you through that type of an experience. So this is not what is being counseled to you at all. Right now, you need to be in the form of self-correction, away from violence, and into service, and into giving your love, and into practicing and walking the expression of Saint Francis of Assisi, of his prayer. Let me serve rather than be served, and so on and so forth within that prayer. And so it's very important for people to understand this and to take advantage of this opportunity that they have within the Kundalini awakening to change away, to transform away from the attitudes and activities of bestial humanity, which is basically an expression of the bestial environment of the law of the jungle. The law of the jungle, might is right. The bigger you are, the stronger you are, therefore you can have your way. And it's very important for people to understand that this is no longer the activity that they need to practice. And even though it surrounds you all the time, you see, you're always given the opportunity to lash out, to be mean to a person, to dominate another person, and to subjugate another person. Now, being subjugated within Kundalini is one thing, but being subjugated within your own egocentrism is a very, very different other thing. And you need to really be able to discern the difference between your egocentric self and the Kundalini, which to me is like, God, it's like night and day. It's so easy to tell, but early on in the Kundalini activation, it's harder because you're still fairly strongly grounded within your egocentrism, and not so well grounded into your Kundalini centrism, so to speak. And the want of gain and fear and loss is that measuring guide that allows you to tell the difference. You know, who's gaining from your violent action? What is being gained? Who is gaining? Is it you? Are you gaining from that? And what is it you're gaining? You know, are you losing? Are you stepping backwards towards brutality, towards bestiality, towards that which you have been evolving away from, through? Or are you moving forward? And are you attaching to physicality? Are you attaching to an ideology? Are you attaching to a belief system? Are you attaching to subjugating other people based upon your own fear of loss or want of gain? What are you doing? You ask yourself these questions. Who is achieving here? What is it you're achieving? People to really take a step inside themselves and ask yourself those questions. What am I gaining by doing this, or that? What am I gaining? All right. And I'm going to move this over. We have a few callers here. And I'm going to go straight on over to Miss Indra. Hello, Indra. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Chrism.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And how are you?
I am good. I'm good. Thank you.
I see you have a question.
Yes, I do. Well, last week we ran out of time. I did ask a question about the downward flow, and I have both now. Like after so many years, I have both. I have an upward flow and I have a downward flow. And I think you called it apana.
The downward flow is apana, yeah.
Right. I did some research, but I want to know what you have to say about it.
Oh, apana for me, I mean, to basically put it in a simple way, is the sacred male, maybe the Shiva force coming down through the cosmos and into the top of the fontanelle, and circulating down the front channels, and then joining, of course, with the sacred feminine and circulating itself through the body. That's the short version.
What's the purpose of it?
The purpose is the transformation into divine flesh.
Okay. Anything else I should know about it?
What else did you glean in your readings?
Well, I find that I feel a sense of balance. Well, I've been grounding a lot, a lot, because I went into deeper isolation.
Good.
And I've been grounding 3.5 hours, which I feel good. I feel good when I ground. My energy is less wild. And I've been grounding a lot, and I feel that there is a sense of balance, balance in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Grounding is helpful, and it's something that you'll want to continue to do. Not so much for the reasons of having your energy less wild. I would suggest that you want to be comfortable with your energy in whatever form it comes in.
Right.
In other words, what you just described to me is you're using grounding as a way to control the energy, and I don't want you to control or try to control Kundalini.
No. Okay. So let me rephrase that. Tell me if I'm trying to control still. I find that when I have a lot of energy, I can become restless, and I won't sleep at night. And I'm just there's a restlessness inside of me. And I find that when I ground, and by ground I mean walk, do my bath, I do 20 minutes deep breathing, I do weights. Sometimes I jog, and I do a hot bath every day, but I alternate hot and cold shower. And I find that it calms. I'm not as restless, but if I have all this energy inside of me, and I'm restless, I cannot sleep.
Have
Was
you
that
tried
controlling?
volunteering? Have you tried volunteering yet?
I haven't, Chrism, because I have a lot of paperwork. When I lost my job, like I have a lot of paperwork to submit to the insurance company so I can get my unemployment, and I'm like pretty much working on that. So I've been wanting to go to volunteer in a soup kitchen for the longest while, and that's what I'm going to do when I get my paperwork out of the way.
Well, that will help you tremendously as well. I mean, that will also give you into levels of balance. I think grounding
But is what I'm doing controlling?
Well, the way you described it at first, I would say yes. The way you just described it now, I'd say less so. You also need to understand that the more you ground, the stronger your energy gets. You realize that, right?
No.
Oh, yeah. The more a person grounds, the more of a connection that it's like electricity. The stronger the ground, the greater the flow.
Right. So then why do I feel so balanced when I do ground?
It's because you have a grounding that is balancing the positive flow of Kundalini within you. It's a good thing. But don't get the ideology in your head that that you're comfortable and complacent, because you're just at a specific level that she's allowing you, and he's allowing you to find a place of balance. More energy, can come to you in the next 10 minutes. Right.
Well, Chrism, so be it. I accept it. I accept.
Exactly.
Whatever comes my way, I whatever comes my way comes my way. But I'm just describing my energy as it is now.
Well, I think the Apana is an excellent balancing force for your harmonization of the sacred male and sacred female within you.
Right.
Excellent. And I think that it will circulate through you. It is working on your chakras, the male aspect and the feminine aspect, and the dual aspects that you're becoming male and female at the same time, because divinity divinity in a non-terrestrial context does not have gender.
Right.
It's both at the same time.
Right.
So
well, it's weird because when I started full blown 4 years ago, I had a love for women. Like I just went around and I could just hug every female. And I find when I had the downward flow, I could just hug all the males on the street, like just give them a hug and say, "Hey, I appreciate you." And I can't. Right. Right. So you'll get to the point where you can see the male and the female in the person without differentiation. I think I have glimpses of it.
Yeah, you'll see sacred male, sacred female in everyone, and you'll also get pictures of their refinement process and what they've had to go through and where they are within their refinement process. I mean, you'll get a lot of information that also stimulates that love and that acceptance and that understanding and that compassion. And you begin to really harmonize with what's happening to them on a divine level.
Right.
So even though you'll be standing on your own two physical feet, and you have the Apana flowing downward, and you have the activation or the Shakti flowing upward, and they're mixing and intermingling, and you're changing, you'll still be able to feel what it is they're going through, and the radiance pattern that is being given off from you will begin to help them, and just as the creatures may land on you and point you in the right direction, so will the responses that you get from other people also point you in the right direction. I'm sure you've had the experience of walking on a sidewalk and having other people walk towards you, and perhaps a baby or a person that is developmentally in our society, that word, disabled walking towards you, and they're looking at your crown. They're not looking at your eyes. They're looking at what's on top of your head.
Yes. I've had a woman, I walked into it's true. It is happening. And I walked into a grocery store, and the woman was looking down, but she just was so mean. And the funny thing is, she was just mean. And the thing is, she looked me in my eyes, and as soon as she looked me in my eyes, she got loving. And my sister was there, and she's like, "Did you see that?" And she bent her head, but she was very grumpy and whatever. And as soon as she looked at me, she was just so loving. And I know, of course, I know it's the Kundalini, right?
Right.
Kind of like that, right. You mean?
Yeah. But it'll happen all the time, and it'll happen to you as well. I mean, you'll be able to witness the divine in other people, the developmental divine in other people.
Right. I gotcha.
This is where you're heading right now. Is as you have the Apana, and as you're harmonizing sacred male, sacred female, and the body is changing, and the mind is changing, and the emotional body is being changed. So will you respond to those changes in broadening your depth of vision, communion, understanding, compassion for other people. So
yes,
you keep going with your grounding. Keep the grounding. What are you washing dishes? What are you doing?
I am so sorry. I didn't expect you to take my call that quick, so I'm kind of sort of cooking, but I'm done now.
All right.
Sorry.
Very good. No, it's okay. It's okay.
I'm sorry. I'm done. So yeah, but I worked in special ed, and I had a good response with kids. Like, I've always been protective over children, but I noticed when I had the Kundalini, kids will come towards me, even children on the street too, right?
Right.
And you're right with that. That's true. That is true.
Just keep going the way you're going. Keep doing your grounding work.
So you like the grounding, the amount of grounding work I'm doing?
Sure. Or you can even just listen to your Shakti. She'll tell you if you need to do more. And then Shiva, the sacred male, will also clue you in. You'll feel it. You'll feel the instruction.
Okay. I had to ground. Honestly, I would be restless. I'd be just restless, and I couldn't sleep. I just couldn't sleep, and I'd be up all night till morning.
Well, you know what? I mean, sometimes you don't need as much sleep as you think you do.
Right. Sometimes
that time is better put to use, creating or meditating or being open to stronger levels of Kundalini coming through. You might want to look at what your ego expectation of a good night's sleep is, and why is that the way it is? Why do you think you have to have 8 hours of sleep? Why do you think you have to have 6 hours of sleep? Why? Because you're not working. You're not working now.
Yeah, but I didn't sleep for a week.
Well, then okay. I mean, I can understand that, but I just going to encourage you to look at what your expectations are and why they are as you think they are.
I have no expectation at this point. So the way my Kundalini went down, and I was never able to predict anything, and it didn't go down the way I thought it would go down. Listen, I give up. My hands is in the air, and I'm in surrender mode,
Well, to some degree, you're still using sleep as a standard of expectation. I haven't been able to get to sleep, and so you use that like three times now in this short conversation. And so I want you, and it's not just you, Indra. It's certainly not just you. People have an expectation of sleep. Oh God, if I don't get 6 hours of sleep, then I'm just useless the very next day, or something of that nature. And as the Kundalini comes into them, as it's coming into you, that isn't necessarily the case anymore.
Okay. It's good to know that. It's really good to know that, because go ahead.
Sometimes you'll need 15 hours of sleep.
Right.
The other side of the coin, the flip side of the coin, is you're going to need a lot more sleep than you currently get.
Yes.
And she will suck the power away from you to such a strong level that the best you can do is get up, make a little food, go to the bathroom, go back to bed.
Yep. And that's really, what's the purpose of that, Chrism?
Transformation.
Right. Oh, okay.
Using the energies of the body in another way that is not controlled by the ego.
Wow.
And the ego expectations, and that's a good thing. Yeah, that's a good thing.
Right.
And then the other half of it is not being able to sleep at all.
Right.
No matter
so the
whether
week is normal, like
I'm
that
not
week
saying
I wasn't.
I'm not saying a week is normal. I'm not suggesting anything is normal to what your ego is putting out normal to mean. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Normal. The idea of normality is an egocentric form of control, form of expectation, form of an attachment as to how perhaps time is to be used in this case.
Gotcha. Makes sense. So I went to my MD. Okay, I got it. I went to my MD, and she told me my blood pressure is high, my heart rate is high, and my pulse is high. But, of course, I refused treatment. I wanted to talk to you about it before. And I know that Kundalini, these things.
Of course, you know that under current laws of the society that I live in, that, you know, I can give no medical advice in any way, shape, or form. So I got to say that first. But yeah, it sounds like normal Kundalini to me.
Right. Well, she gave me a prescription for, I don't know if it's Valium or Valium.
Valium, yeah, that'll put you to sleep.
Yeah, right. But I'm very sensitive to medication, and of course I didn't fill the prescription because I'm not going to take medication, because in the past with the Kundalini, I couldn't take medication. I went nuts, and I can't even have a drink. I go nuts. So
right. Well, you were drinking just the other month. I mean, come on.
That's and I went crazy. I told you, I messaged you and told you, and I literally went nuts for days later.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So we learn. You know, we learn.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, thank you.
I learned quickly.
For your call, and I want to thank you for mentioning the Apana. I don't mention that as much as I probably should, and I always get that sniggering of like the sacred male in me is going, "Hello, I'm here. Hello."
Yes.
I'm here.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my dear. Bon appetit.
And I would put me back to. I want to listen to the rest of the show.
Okay. So there we have it, and bon apana, Indra. Bon apana. And then I'm going to come on over here to Tyra. Hello, Tyra. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Chrism. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I missed you guys. I couldn't join for past few weeks because of work and all that. How it goes.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, so the one question that I wanted to ask is, like, a couple of months back, I was really religiously doing the sadhana and the meditation and all that, and seems like I'm going through a withdrawal phase. Last time you asked me to meditate and ask Kundalini for guidance, but I mean, before I was like tempted, and I was like, oh, I got to go and sit. Now I don't know, is that normal or?
Is what normal?
The withdrawal.
Withdrawal from what?
From meditation and all that.
Oh, withdrawing from meditation. Well, how are you using your time instead of meditating?
I work crazy hours.
TV? Is TV in there?
No. I don't have, honestly, I don't even have much time to watch TV. There is not a single show on TV that I religiously follow. That's not my life.
Well, I think that you should just have more self-discipline.
Yeah.
And follow the breath, do the breathing, do the pranayama, alternate nostril breathing, and then go right into a meditation using a mantra, perhaps, to keep your focus there, and to push yourself more than having your ego say, well, okay, I've done this, now what's next?
Right.
That would be part of the monkey mind, having expectation of what's next that can entertain me.
No. I part of me really misses it, and I feel bad that I'm not able to do this. But
well, I don't see. I don't agree that you're not able to do it. The fact that you do it, it proves that you are able to do it.
Right.
The fact that you're drifting away from it can be a point of self-discipline. A point of going beyond what you think that you're able to do. I mean, the fact that you spoke that term, I'm not able to do it. Well, you obviously are, but there's something inside you that's going, maybe, I don't know.
Being lazy. Simple word. I'm just tired. I work so long hours.
That's right. It's just like you got to look at that part of yourself that's going, and get to work. Get to work with it and see it as something that you need to do in order to nourish aspects of yourself that require that nourishment, that require that self-discipline. Because let me tell you, when you're doing your reversals and your behavior moderation and your self-correction, that's going to take a lot more discipline than just sitting down and doing meditation.
Right.
And so this is sharpening the blade of your self-discipline that allows you to do what you need to do, even though your ego doesn't want to do it.
I think maybe the part of it is like when you do it and what the changes comes within you, and then you're trying to align yourself with the outside world, and that's a bit of a challenge for me, I think.
Well, sure, it's a challenge for anybody. It's different.
Right,
it's different than what
you're becoming
expecting.
more forgiving and more polite and more kind, and then when you go back to work and the professional world, and people are there to rip you apart.
Well, this is what I was talking about in the opening monologue. Is that we're surrounded by egotism. We're surrounded by egotism, and that is the plan. The plan is to surround the activating and awakening individual with egotism. As you come through the layers of ego, you get to understand, you get to see, you get to partake of other people's egocentrism that are not going through the Kundalini.
Right, and it's so obvious and it's so see-through, and then and it becomes like very transparent to us, and it becomes hard to live into that.
No, it doesn't have to become hard. It just doesn't have to become hard. That's just the egotistic response to it. The ego knows that there's other ways to behave, and it irritates that newly informed ego about what it is that is appropriate, what isn't. But instead, you can just see it and forgive it.
Right. No, but what's my challenge is I also become more softer and softer as I go into this, and my boss doesn't like that.
Well,
He's
that's
like,
too
bad. You should, what he says is this: you need to don't ask people, just tell people. Be more commanding, be more strong. And
well,
here
you can be commanding with Kundalini. Believe me, you can be uber commanding with Kundalini.
I feel
ask anybody that's been my student if you can be commanding with Kundalini.
Yeah, but I feel like I've become very, very soft, and people all over start walking all over me. Because I'm like, okay, it's her ego, let it go,
Santara,
yes,
is
Susan?
it possible for people to be commanding with the Kundalini?
Is it possible for people to be what?
commanding within the Kundalini?
Oh, I think so. It is for sure. I mean, I think if I can just say, these are phases, aren't they? That Tyra is going through. When we begin to see, let's say, what's going on with people who don't have Kundalini, and it becomes difficult for us to be with them because we see through it. But we have to learn, I think, well, I did anyway, to be okay with that, because that's where they're at, Tyra.
That's how you forgive. Exactly, yeah, you forgive them.
Yeah, exactly what you said, Chrism. Forgiving, like we have to be forgiving. And then, we learn as well that we don't have to be mushy either. We can be, if your work requires you to be, I'm going to use the word assertive in some way with people, you can do that without being aggressive. And I think they're all phases that the Kundalini brings us through. But we have to, I think the forgiving is the next bit, at least it was for me anyway, because I remember being so irritated with people because, and like you have to look at that and go, whoa, what are you doing there, Amelia? You're being very intolerant. And so that's not very Kundalini-esque either. So, like, there's a lot of things go on that we need to self-correct ourselves and use forgiveness, as Chrism says. I mean, that's really the base thing that I would have had to keep coming back to. And then it gets easier, and then it doesn't matter.
What I was trying to say is that I'm becoming more soft. I'm not becoming tough enough for the role that I have to play in the outside world.
Well, let's just change the way you're becoming.
What?
Change how you're becoming. This is behavioral modification. You are not a victim to Kundalini making you softer. Okay, you can become very strong and commanding within that, and you can adjust to any tempo of behaviorism that you need to become to in order to keep your job.
I think it's a learning curve for me, but I'll try.
Definitely. For all of us. Thank you, Tyra. And I'm going to put you in the blue here. And did you have announcements you'd like to make, Santara?
I do. I want to make an announcement, which I've made before, but I want to make it today about this seminar that's happening in Germany. Manisha is making wonderful progress with this, and she's got quite a few people signed up. And it's restricted. It's not going to be a huge seminar. So if you have an interest in going to Germany, if you're living in Europe, if you're living in the UK, I saw people earlier there in the chat room, Tim and other people. If you're living in the UK or any part of Europe, and indeed if you're living in America or anywhere, but particularly if you're living near to Germany, it might not be that difficult, to get there and to actually meet Chrism in person. And I can tell you that if you're listening to this show and you're listening to his voice and his teachings, well, then it's a real bonus to go and meet him in person and to receive Shaktipat in person and indeed to meet other Kundalini people. So I would be encouraging you to get in contact with Manisha. Now, Manisha is after putting up on the Facebook groups how to get in contact with her. So if you go to any of the Facebook groups, you will see her information there. But if you have a pen, you could just write down the name of the Facebook group that she definitely has her information on, and that is Kundalini Seminars and Event with Chrism. And she has her post pinned to the top of the page. So she's organizing the seminar for May. It's happening on the 26th and the 27th of May. And Chrism is coming to Karlsruhe. I'm pronouncing that really badly, in Germany.
Yeah. Better than me.
It's quite an easy, it's not Berlin. The last one she organized was in Berlin. And so it was quite easy, you know, all flights and planes and trains go to Berlin. But in actual fact, Karlsruhe is quite easy to get to as well. But talk to Manisha about it and see what can be arranged. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything, except if you have an interest.
Don't they have parachute drops that you can just drop out of the plane?
That would be interesting.
It would. I would do it.
That would be fun. Really?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's one of the things I wouldn't do.
Jumping out of an airplane at 16,000 feet is great fun, actually.
Wow. Have you done it?
Yeah. It's very quiet. It's interesting to look at your shoes and realize that 16,000 feet below you is the ground. And it's very quiet, extremely quiet. Once the chute is open. Until you open the chute, then you're traveling at 220 miles an hour, and, you know, it's kind of noisy doing that. But once the chute opens, boy, it's very quiet, very relaxing, actually. And you can steer the parachute. So, yeah, it's very cool, very fun.
Very cool, very cool. Okay, so that's May the 26th and 27th. So have a look at your diaries. If you're living around anywhere in Europe, it's not difficult to get there, and it's a great opportunity to meet with Chrism in person. Get in contact with Manisha Manish. On any of the Facebook groups, you'll find her information there. That's it, I think,
Thank you for the announcement. Thank you very much for that announcement. And I believe Mohan is with us here. And I'm gonna keep you on the red there, Centaur, I'm going to come to Mohan. Is this you, Mohan? Hello?
Yes, Chrism, I'm here.
Hi, Mohan. Now, I understand, how is the development towards the Denver possibility becoming? Is that moving along?
Yes, I'm in discussions with Rosemary on this. We are still trying to find out a suitable place which is falling under our budget lines.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. So Denver is still a possibility there, and I just want everybody to know that for those of you living in Canada or anywhere in the United States, Denver is a very central location, and we will keep you updated with the progress of Rosemary and Mohan and all the other people that are helping. Santara is helping, and lots of people are helping. So thank you, Mohan. I think I got you in the middle of you doing something. I hear a lot of sound there, so I'm going to go ahead and put you in the blue.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, very cool. And can I just say to everybody listening there, I think you know anyway, if you want to ask Chrism a question at any point during the rest of the show, hit number 1 on your dials and the question mark will come up, okay? And we can go to you then. And anybody listening in the chat room, for the callers. And same in the chat room, really. If you have a question for Chrism, if we have any new listeners there, I'm not too sure. Any question, you can type it in, and Chrism will get to read it.
Absolutely. I'm looking at the chat room right now. And so if you do have a question in the chat room, feel free to type it out and press send, and I'll be able to see that. And then, of course, for the callers calling in, just press the question mark on your dial pad, and we can go from there. And have you had any kind of an opportunity to collect any questions, Santara?
Well, yes, I do every week, Chrism.
All right. I'm ready if you're ready.
I'm ready. So 2 seconds, and I'm getting them. So as usual, I'm going to start with the question. Now, last week we had a question from Shrikant, and it was about healing the cosmos. And he's wondering now, he said, if one cannot give healing to the cosmos, can one say at least the following sentences? May all be happy, may all be free from illness, may all see what is auspicious, may no one suffer.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, you can say that. Sure, you can say it till the cows come home, but people need to suffer. People need to be
wow.
sick. What?
Oh, Chrism. No, it's just I know that's an old Sanskrit prayer, isn't it? You know, may all be free from, and all. You know, it's so I'm just surprised. I thought it was a good thing to say.
Well, it is. I mean, it's good to make that intention for people, but no,
Okay.
absolutely not. People need to suffer. People need to evolve, and as I use the baby teeth analogy quite a bit. I mean, the baby will be in pain as the new teeth come through. The person, the individual that is refining divinity towards Kundalini will need to go through painful refinements. It is a fact. It is what must occur. When you go to the gym and you give yourself a good workout, you tear apart the muscles in your body, and the body replaces those muscle cells. But for a while, you get to feel sore while the body is replacing those muscle cells and building new muscles. People are here to suffer as well as to have joy and love and happiness. And it's really the cross check between the two of suffering and sadness and happiness and joy, where we develop our understandings of what it is to be the divine flesh upon this world. You have to suffer in order to have joy. You have to be in darkness in order to appreciate light. You've got to have the experience of the contrast between the two states. Okay? And so is it okay to say, well, sure. I mean, you're not going to be crucified for saying, you know, let there be happiness, let there be joy, let there be health. You're not going to suffer for that. But it is incongruous with what is actually what a person is actually there to do. I would modify it in a certain way. I would say let people evolve in the best possible way for their evolution to occur within them. Let people come into the divine understandings so that they can understand where they need to go, what they need to do, how they need to behave. Let love and all the dimensions of love, which includes anger and sadness and loss and grief and, you know, all of those things, let the dimensions of love cascade over that person, and may their karma be redeemed in a way that allows them to pursue or to embrace, is a better word, to embrace their divine within, that it may come into an expression that is fruitful to their divine evolution. I don't think people they need to understand that you're not taking away people's pain. Pain is there. Pain exists. Pain is what needs to occur. You're not going to become Kundalini awakened and then start taking away people's pain. It's not going to happen. You've got to have the pain. You've got to embrace the pain. Just like your coach, you know, when the coach for the soccer team, because, you know, most of the world plays soccer. So you've got to learn how to run, and you've got to have those sore muscles that come from learning how to run, from learning how to direct the ball this way or that. You've got to learn what it is to fall and get up in order to manage yourself in a better way that allows you to play the game, you know, in a stronger format. You've got to suffer the pain in order to embrace the gift. Some people say that, you know, the pain of learning to play the guitar, or learning to play the harp, or learn, you know, saxophone, whatever it is, the pain of the fingers is the art entering the body. Okay, you've got to suffer in order to appreciate, and you know, I would pray more for a person's evolution into divinity or towards divinity than I would in removing them from pain. I understand that's not a popular concept, and I can understand why. And I can understand why I can understand why the Sanskriti people would say, oh, may people, live in peace. May people be harmonious with each other. And that's a great, grand ideology, even though it's mistaken for how this planet currently is in contemporary times. May that be the future of this planet. May all people, finally burn off all that karma, finally stop killing each other in wars, finally stop mistreating people emotionally and physically and psychologically. That's great. That for that future scenario, lovely. But within the truth of contemporary society, people need to have the opportunity to redeem their karma, and sometimes that's going to involve pain. Most times that will involve pain. If you look at the millions, billions of people throughout history, maybe they were a Roman conqueror, maybe they were in the great battles of India, they were a great warrior and they killed many, many, many people. Well, karmically, you're going to look at that and you go, oh, geez, well, how many lives do I have to live in order to make up for that? How many people do I have to kill in order to teach myself that killing's not a good thing? It's not a way towards the divine expression. Unless it is, Did not divinity place Alexander the Great on this world? Wasn't Arjuna, a great warrior? Didn't Arjuna kill people in order to get to where he was, within that great epic battle of India? You see, death is also a part of life, and life is also a part of death. The cessation of life is that death. And so you need to really look at from a Kundalini perspective now, from a regular, normal person perspective. May there be peace on earth. May we be happy and healthy. May we give to each other the love that we would give to our neighbor. And I'm just kind of making this stuff up. But yeah, that helps the refinement process for people. But for a Kundalini person, you need to step outside of the mundane understandings of what life is and come into the divine and to realize that karma must have its way. Karma must be able to receive its redemption, or the people don't evolve. Over. Thank you, Shrikant. Thank you, Satara.
Yeah, wow. That's fabulous. Thank you. So question 2. Now again, it's actually I'm going to skip on to question 3 because it connects again into last week's question, and here it is. Okay. The ladies mentioned in last radio show who want to learn meditation from me, they already practice mantra, concentration on breath, transcendental meditation, Buddhist meditation techniques, but are not satisfied. They want to activate Kundalini. So what should be taught to them?
Oh. Well, the question needs to be asked, why do they want to activate the Kundalini? Why is that so important? What's going on with that? Is it to be exalted? Is there ego aggrandizement going on there? Why is it so important for them to activate the Kundalini? And do they want more power? What's the purpose for them wanting to activate the Kundalini? Why are they not satisfied with the current meditational techniques that they've been given, which could, in truth, activate the Kundalini? That's my question back to that questioner.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me hear their answer to that.
Okay, so next week. Thank you,
Next
Chrism.
week. Yes, this will be the
third.
This will be the serial that we're
serial question.
Yeah.
Okay, and the next question then is, why is it not easy to forget than forgive? Oh yes, and then he said, is forgiving a person easier than forgetting the person who caused you harm physically and emotionally? Why can't we forget the person or incident although we forgive?
Well, sometimes you can. Let's see, for the guy that took your seat on the train, you may never see him again, so you can forget him. You can forgive him and forget, not a problem. The person that cut you off on the motorway, you never really got to see them. You got to see their car, but you can forgive them and forget them, so you can do both. Now, if it's your mom or your dad, well, you can't forget that so much unless you have a very distant relationship, and then you can. Kundalini teaches us not to attach and become emotionally attached in many regards, and so it sounds like the person is asking more from a sense of attachment, of wanting to forget because it's easier. It's easier to forgive something that you can just forget. It's harder to have to be non-forgetting of that individual and still forgive them, because when you're around that individual, well, then you constantly remember what occurred. Unless you've truly, deeply forgiven them. You see, to be around the person that has violated you in some way, well, then you have to constantly work through that violation with your forgiveness until there is no more memory of that violation from a painful standpoint that you're having to constantly remember. Once you've forgiven them truthfully, well, then, the pain recedes, and it's replaced through the forgiveness with the gratitude for the opportunity to be able to go into that level of forgiveness that person in your life constantly will engender upon you. So look at married couples. Oh gosh, my wife, she broke that dish that has been in my family for centuries. She broke it, and it shattered and I can't glue it back together. Oh, what? I forgive you, honey. I forgive you. I forgive you. You've got to be able to forgive the people that are in your life truthfully. And from a Kundalini perspective, get your attachment off of that damn dish, because you're not taking it with you.
True.
You're not taking it with you. Okay, sure, you may be able to give it to your kids, but you can save a little splinter, make a necklace out of it. Yes, there. Okay, good. Continuing as a necklace now. It's been transformed into a body adornment instead of an eating utensil. Okay, and so you've got to be able to forgive the people that are in your life on a constant level, like a boss. Tyra was talking about the boss. Says, well, you're not commanding enough. I want to see more of a commanding structure from you. And you've got to be able to, if that boss is being even more cruel and saying, well, you're just not good enough and you better get good enough or you're not going to stay here any longer, and you're thinking, oh gosh, I'm losing my job, and you've got to forgive it. So every time you see that boss, you're like thinking, oh my God, I'm losing my job. You've got to forgive it, and you've got to embrace your Kundalini, because if you lose that job, Kundalini will help you get another one. You are not the slave of anybody except the Kundalini. We're all slaves to Shakti. Remember that Kundalini get-together, Centaur? We're all chatting. It's like, I'm a slave to Shakti. I'm a slave to Shakti. And it's true. It was true then, and it's true now. Yeah. So there you have it. Okay. And so, yeah, over with that question.
Okay. Thank you, Chrism, very much. So now moving on to the groups. Does Kundalini energy deplete over time if one doesn't perform meditation and stuff? I love that stuff.
If you don't meditate and if you take out any recognition of Kundalini within yourself, it doesn't lose its power. It doesn't deplete its power. It just, if it is appropriate for the individual, it will recede itself. It will begin to not be so present in that person's mind if the Kundalini decides that is in the person's best interest. Some people, that's just not going to happen. I don't care if you don't do anything. If you just sit around being a couch potato watching TV, the Kundalini is going to shock the heck out of you with a bolt of energy to the base of your spine, and you'll lay there on that couch being an electrified couch potato, maybe a French fry after a while. So, it doesn't always work. I know of a few people right now in my contact that there's no way that they could that the Kundalini will leave them alone, regardless of whether they're doing meditation or doing any kind of a practice. It's coming to them all the time. It is changing the structure of their body. It is electrocuting them whenever it wants. It is doing what it wants to do to the individual, and they're hardly doing any kind of a practice. So it works both ways. If a person comes to me and says, "Oh my God, Chrism, it's shocking me. It's like making me eat meat. It's making me have sex with everything, and I don't know what to do." And it's like, well, what kind of a practice are you doing? Well, I'm chanting 6 hours a day. I'm giving myself to the Kundalini constantly. I am dancing. I'm dancing around all the time. I'm eating a lot of ginseng so that I can have a really strong sexual response. Well, then I'll say, well, stop dancing and stop chanting and stop eating ginseng and see what the Kundalini does then. Often people are so wrapped up into the spiritual practice that they've generated in order to have the Kundalini that they're actually incurring so much energy through that generative technique that they're giving themselves more energy than they actually need to do. And the Kundalini is just going to surf right along with that. Okay, here we go. Here's another 8,000 volts to the base of the spine. Have a nice day. Until you begin to learn that once the Kundalini is up, then she and he will manage the energetic conduit that you are becoming by virtue of maybe a different practice. Maybe you need to get more into your emotional body and start seeing where you need to make changes within your behaviors emotionally with other people or with yourself, and so on and so forth. And that can also mitigate the amount of energy that's pouring through you. But if you're not doing any kind of a practice and the Kundalini's pouring energy through you, well, you just better put your seatbelt on and learn to be appreciative. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. The next question, is it possible for someone to have awakened Kundalini, but he or she doesn't know?
Yes, it's quite possible. People have this happen to them all the time. They had a car accident or a sporting accident, and maybe they had some trauma at the tailbone or the lower spine, and the Kundalini comes open for them because of that. You don't know what it is, but all of a sudden, man, you sure feel spiritual. You feel that warm, loving liquid at the base of the spine coursing up through your spine and swirling around your crown. It feels so good. You don't know why it feels so good because you just had that accident, but damn, it feels good. And wow, gosh, I feel like I'm at one with everything. And so, but I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just having psychosis because of the the trauma of my accident. Maybe it's just stress from the trauma of my accident. And they don't know that they have the Kundalini. And then of course they start hearing voices, and it's post-traumatic stress syndrome. Maybe I need to go to the ER. And they'll go to the ER and they'll go, well, how's your sleeping pattern? Are you having good sex? Or here's your BP's really high, your heart rate's really high. We need to control that with drugs, because they don't know that you have Kundalini. And if they knew that you have Kundalini, they don't know about Kundalini, so they don't know how to treat you or not treat you because you have the Kundalini, and so on and so forth. And so the person becomes a chemistry experiment for the MD until the Kundalini comes along and says, no, you don't want to take those drugs. Dude, just relax. Maybe do some breathing exercise. Here, I'm going to push your body into this position, and I'm going to give you this breathing exercise to kind of maybe get some sense into you. And so the Kundalini pushes the person's body into a specific position and forces the person to do pranayama or some form of breathing exercise. And the person becomes developed in such a way that they're able to perceive that, hey, maybe this is not post-traumatic stress syndrome. Maybe this is a good thing. Maybe that accident kind of pushed me into an availability of a certain type of situation where I can become closer to my spiritual self, my higher consciousness. They like to use that a lot. I just feel like I'm getting in touch with my higher consciousness. And oh wow, gosh, maybe I should just meditate. I know I've never meditated before, but geez, I really feel like it might be a good thing. Hey, let's take that Kundalini yoga class, or let's get that Reiki treatment. Any kind of a way that pushes them out of their shell of normalcy and their expectations of normal events to occur. They can have the Kundalini without knowing that they have it. They can have all the effects of Kundalini and not know that they have it. And then, it can go another way with them too. They can have the Kundalini and start hearing voices in their head and start telling their trusted MD that, I'm hearing voices in my head today, Doc. And the doc is going, I've got a nice little inpatient experience for you. And off to the psych ward you go, because now you've been diagnosed with schizophrenia. Maybe with some bipolarism too, if there's been some great emotional expressions. And then forever now, that is on your on your record now. You're a crazy person now, and so employers can check to see if you've had any kind of a mental problem, and go, schizophrenia. Well, we won't hire him or her, and so the Kundalini can also go that way and begin to dismantle that person's life and livelihood into such a way that they become so discordant with society and the ability to help themselves that they're forced to trust whatever is occurring, and they're forced to open to that divine imposition upon their current livelihood, and they're forced to listen to that voice within that isn't an entity that says, hey, maybe you've got Kundalini. Maybe you should look into that. Over.
Thanks, Chrism.
Sure.
Can a person work on awakening Kundalini while being on chemo?
Yes, absolutely. Chemo is a really good opportunity to look at your Kundalini and to detach from your fear, detach from what the MDs are telling you. Well, if you don't take this chemo, you're going to die, which is typically what they do. And you can begin to trust more of a divine nature, which, MDs have absolutely no understanding of or want to have an understanding of because it doesn't fit in with their medical teachings. And so, being on chemo is an excellent opportunity to become at one with your Kundalini, even to the point of maybe going off the chemo, if that is something that is showing a greater result. Like chemo, taking a light dose of chemotherapy is also another good way to have the best of both worlds, so to speak, to take care of the cancers in such a way and still retain some level of an immune system, which is what the Kundalini would use to take care of cancer cells. If you have cancer, then you have an immune problem. It's not that you've been invaded by an alien cancer force from Mars. It means that the immune system needs to be pushed, and the Kundalini is a great way to augment and to strengthen the immune system. Over.
Thanks, Chrism. Something just came to me there while you were talking about that, and you said about it's a good way to detach from fear. Could you talk a little bit about that, we'll say, in the context of, say, medical things or physical symptoms that are going on that we have no control over?
Well, whenever you go to a hospital, death is always in a hospital environment. Death, the fear of death, the removal of the possibility of death from your beautiful, vibrant life. There's a lot of fear of loss there in a hospital, and want of gain. And you want to get better, so you want to gain your life, and you fear the loss. You fear the loss of your life, the loss of your health, and so there's fear. Hospitals are permutated with fear. If that's a word. I don't know if that's a word, permutated. A lot of fear.
What do you mean, though?
A lot of fear in hospitals. A lot of fear of what the doc says to you. It's just like, well, God, you've got cancer. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Looking at his chart, I'm sorry, Mr. Chrism. Yes, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, sir, but shuffling through the pages, it appears that you're showing positive signs for colorectal cancer, and Mr. Chrism, yes, you may have to enter into an oncological environment in order to come to terms with this type of a condition, and basically they'll use terms that are Latin, so if you speak Latin, you're in good shape. But if you don't speak Latin, they're gonna use terms that will frighten you because you don't know what it means, and they do that in order to initiate a level of dominancy over your choices, and so you go into an oncological environment and they say, well, we've got this really good chemotherapy agent. It kills everything in there. It'll kill the good cells, the bad cells, the in-between cells, the nice cells. It's going to kill everything, but it'll kill the cancer too. And so they'll put you on high doses of that, and you're literally drinking insecticide or pesticide or whatever, side of death that chemical agent is giving you. And it is a devastating experience. And I would not, if it were me, I would look at alternative routes. If it were me, I would look into getting my immune system, if it's cancer, back on track. I would look at stepping outside of the medical paradigm and looking for what other cultures do with similar types of environments, such as maybe traditional Chinese medicine, TCM, or I would look at, of course, having Kundalini, I would certainly follow what my Kundalini is telling me to do. I would look at what do Aboriginal people do with cancer? How do they do that? How come they don't get it? That type of thing. I would look into that. I would go into ayahuasca if I wasn't a Kundalini person and I was looking at alternate. I would go and I would do some ayahuasca experiences and look at what comes for me within that type of a scenario, and take the advice of that vine, the vine of life, and you've got to be able to expand beyond the fear handcuffs that the medical system puts you into. And the hospitals are all about that. They're all about fear and control. They're controlling you. They're controlling your options. Well, if you don't take the chemotherapy, Mr. Mitchell, I'm serious. Is that your name? Yeah, Mr. Chrism. Because they never read the charts. They don't know who you are. You're another 15 minutes of patient time to them. As they make enough money to buy a Maserati every day. Looks like if you don't take the chemotherapy, Mr. Chrism, you're going to die. EAD. Dead. And if you want to be dead, no, you don't want to be dead. So you better drink this insecticide. It'll kill everything.
Well, they don't tell you that, though.
They don't. I think I may be blowing it out a little bit than what they. But they do tell you that.
I think maybe it has. But you're right.
They do tell you that in not so many words.
Yeah.
Because I've helped people with cancer, and as have you, Centaur. You know this. And so people go on light doses, and it doesn't totally obliterate their immune system, and they're able to come out of the cancer much better, but for the most part there's a very, very low survival rate within Western hospitals of cancer. I don't even think it's 3%. So John of God in Brazil had a better rating when he was actually doing his work down there instead of now. It's kind of a well, let's just say I'm looking for other areas in South America. I'd go more with ayahuasca.
Okay. Okay, well, thanks, Chrism. Somebody actually who was sick yesterday on the group said, what about meditation when feeling sick with a temperature? Should I wait because I'm feeling very powerless?
No, you go right into meditation. It may help you understand what's wrong. And if you have a temperature, basically that's the body's immune system trying to kill whatever it is that's causing the illness or to, take care of it. They raise the temperature. The body raises the temperature. That's what a fever is all about, is raising that temperature in order to take care of the ailment from an inside platform. So you can go right into meditation, and you can find out what's going on, and you can actually perhaps even assist the body by doing that, by going into meditation. It's not going to hamper the fever unless it starts to diminish it by helping your body diminish whatever is causing the ailment.
Chrism, actually, fever is a thing that's very fear invoked. The fever takes something, and a fever is such a positive thing in our bodies when we get them.
Yeah.
Especially
you've had experience
children.
with that with 6 kids. I mean, you know what a fever is all about.
Oh, absolutely. I just leave my kids suffer. You got a fever, get on with it. I never gave them stuff for their fever, really, because I really believe that it's
I think it's helpful to
working for a person.
Well, you just have them turn around and draw like a dartboard target on their back and just throw darts at them and say, okay, which hurts more now, the darts or the fever?
Yeah. It just upsets me to see young parents now giving their kids stuff to just take down fever as though it's a bad thing.
Tylenol,
and it's so
Tylenol.
God,
children's Tylenol, yeah. Now, what do you think of the ice cube? The ice cube treatment. How does that happen? What do you think of that? The ice cube bath.
I don't agree with that. I never did that. We were always told sponge them down, and I'm thinking, no, because the temperature is supposed to be up. That's where the body kills these bugs. So why would I plunge the poor child into freezing cold water and force the body into a place that it shouldn't be in? So no, I never did that.
It just feels, the idea just feels so good to me, though.
It's cruel. A person is sick, but leaving that
really,
aside, it's
just think of Shasta and going into those frozen over pools.
Oh, I loved that, but that's different.
Yeah.
That's not. I don't mean. Yeah, but we didn't have temperatures and we weren't sick. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true enough. True enough.
Yeah. No sponging down in cold baths. No. So, Chrism, there was another question where somebody had some questions and they were hoping you could answer. So here we go. I feel the energy hovering between my root and heart chakra. It has done a few cycles already. One very intense surge where it went into my heart quite abruptly, but this energy has stayed in these lower chakras. I feel it twirling around my spine, it moves a bit and then back down. Would you consider this to be the energy just clearing the path for the full-blown version? I just wanted to clarify. And I only feel the two energies merge during meditation when it goes back into place soon after. If you could shed some light on that, it would be great. And one more thing, is it best to just let it do its own thing and not force it higher?
Well, definitely that's the best. That is best to do, for sure. Not to try to, take the take the control situation away from the Kundalini and let your ego decide what is best. That's always a mistake. But it's a mistake that a lot of people make too. You'd think that they would have a better understanding of that, but no, they don't. So, yeah, I definitely feel that this person. I remember answering his post. I don't quite remember what I said. But I think I can safely say that you don't try to take control, and you don't attach to a certain way that you think Kundalini is supposed to go. The Kundalini can go to the heart, it can go to the root, it can go to the third chakra, the second chakra, the fifth chakra, the sixth chakra. It can go all the way up and down and up and down and up and around, and it can go to the first and the fourth and the second and the third and the fourth and the first and the second and the fifth and the sixth and the second. I mean, it can go into many different combinations of itself along the spine of the individual and just be absolutely normal with it. It is not. You got to get out of these books or out of these guru expectations that say, "Oh well, oh my God, oh you mean it went to the third and the first? Oh my God, no, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's just everybody has a different combination to the lock of what the Kundalini is doing. So for Chrism, how is it? It's like I had the Kundalini flowing into a lot of different chakras at the same time. It wouldn't stay at one place. It would, it'd move around, and it was perfectly okay. And for those people who know a little more about Kundalini, there's really a lot of different activation sequences that the Kundalini itself will go through. You got the front channels, you got the back channels, you got the upper cranial channels, you got the lower thoracic channels, you got the channels in the feet and the toes and the fingers and the palms of the hands. You've got the channels on the face. You've got the tongue channels. There are many, many different permutations and combinations of chakra stimulation that the Kundalini will go through. Don't try to figure it out. Have gratitude and accept it for what it is doing to you rather than what you expect it to be doing for you. Over.
So, Chrism, thank you. So, people say things like the full-blown version, as though
I love that full-blown.
Yeah.
I like, I like a full-blown Kundalini. Like it's full-blown. Full-blown.
Well, after the sweep, I suppose, people think that once the sweep comes, it's going to be very, very different.
Well, it's like because I'm full-blown now, Before I was only half-blown. My tires were just a little low then. Now they're blown out now. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. No, that's it. I mean, basically.
Because I'm so full blown, I have to blow things out every now and again. It's like it increases the toilet time. But I'm blown. I'm fully blown with Kundalini, and Kundalini blew me up like a balloon, and now I'm like floating on the ceiling all the time, and it's just like, what do I do?
Okay. Well, I suppose it's back to preconceived ideas, though, isn't it? About, and when I get the full blown, or it's going to, yeah. So
I love it. I love it because it's an egotistic expression. It's that, they preface it, I'm fully blown with the Kundalini, and which means, I'm like totally awakened, fully blown awakened, and because I am so fully blown awakened that, I have these certain fully blown problems because of my fully blownness. I'm bloated, actually. I'm bloated with Kundalini, and I don't have the top of my head. It's just gone because it fully blew off because I'm fully blown. They get attached to these things because their ego attaches to the idea that they are so far ahead of anybody else because they're fully blown. They're kind of diminishing the activated stage, which in many cases is far more important for the refinement process because they want to be fully blown. A lot of them misconstrue the activation stage for the awakened stage, and because the activation stage can be far more adamant about certain refinement levels, far more adamant about certain behavioral levels, far more adamant about forcing a Kriya on a person rather than the person accepting the Kriya, forcing it on them, and it's like, oh my God, it's so fully blown, right?
Yeah.
I'm done.
Oh my God, I thought you were gone. I was just looking at my phone going, is it me? No, okay, that was a pause.
That's because I'm fully blown, fully blown.
That's because you're breathless after being so fully blown. Okay, I go on to the next question then. Yeah, and it says, has anyone's Kundalini experience glitched the world or broken reality? For instance, things that have happened in the physical world that can't be explained or were too coincidental. So the person is wondering there. What would you say to that, Chrism?
Yes, it's fairly common, but it's hard to bring that into an example because once again, you're looking at the scientific, observational, replicable expression of Kundalini on the physical world, and sometimes that's not so clear to put out there. I mean, certainly telepathy, when telepathy happens, but how do you prove telepathy? Well, is it, what I'm thinking of a number, that's not exactly going to do it for the scientists. And so, you got the temperature raises, you got heart rate increases, your heart can go from like 75 to 175 inside of a minute. But then again, certain drugs can do that too. And so, you're basically being put into a position of proving Kundalini phenomena, and that is not typically a very healthy thing to do because it lends itself towards self-aggrandizement and things. Now, I know that the Shrikant put a whole list of things out there that, was very, very provocative, and I thought, it was a good list too. He was able to memorize, thousands of sutras inside of a few months. He was able to talk to God about not having it rain in a certain area. He was able to mitigate, I think, the way the divine worked in his area simply by asking that it be so. And yet, how can he prove? He can't prove it because, you've got to have an understanding of Kundalini at first. How could I prove that the Kundalini showed me to go to a what do they call those machines in casinos? What's that machine called?
One-arm bandit.
No,
That's what we call them. A one-arm?
No, it's something else. A slot machine. I can't prove to anybody that the Kundalini dropped a vision in my waking consciousness as I'm standing in line at the cashier to cashier out chips that she allowed me to win, and basically said, "You're not done yet. Go over there, get the money from the cashier, then go to this machine, and then you'll win, $4,300 and then after that to go to, oh, here's another machine over here. Now you'll win $1,100. You won't have to pay taxes on that because it's right below the line of taxation." Well, how do you prove that? How do you prove that? You can't prove a lot of what the Kundalini allows you to do. You can't prove that the Kundalini said, don't step on that plane. This plane, I don't want you to take this plane. I don't care. I'll get you another flight. And that plane goes down. Or, don't take this road. Don't take this road. And you realize that the bridge went out on that road, so you can't take that road. You can't really quantify Kundalini within physics all the time. Sometimes you can. But most times you can't. This is why I think you pulled out of that question, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
I didn't know what to say. There was no point.
Right, exactly. And it's hard to quantify Kundalini that way because it's so far outside. It's like trying to fit a camel through the eye of the needle, to go biblical with you. You can't put the camel through the eye of the needle unless you do it one molecule at a time. And people don't have that kind of molecular diversity yet, or the ability to put a molecule of a camel through that eye of the needle, or to expand that needle so that the camel can walk right through it. It's just not there within the typical understandings of physics that are being taught in the universities today. I think science, some areas of science, like black science, has it. The black operational, super subculture of scientific understandings that they're not going to release into the general public quite yet. They have it. They understand it. But they want to keep their control, and so they're not going to allow that to be given into the normal society. So that's just kind of where it stands at the moment. I certainly can't explain how I bilocate or my telepathies or the healings that I'm giving, or having a person's, layers of the body disappear so I can look at certain layers of a body. Oh, no, I got 90 seconds left. What do you got left?
Oh, wow. I just checked, and I've got 1 minute, 20 seconds, but okay.
All right. So last words, my dear?
90 seconds. See you all. Oh, no, I'm not going to be here next week, actually. It's Valentine's Day, isn't it? And I'm going away with my dear husband. So
that's okay. I'll be here. I'll be here.
Yeah. So I'll see everybody the following week. And I'm reminded of our trip to Peru. Remember Valentine's Day? That was the last big Valentine's Day for me. So I'm looking forward to that. And look, I'll see you guys the following week. And thank you, Chrism.
Thank you, Santara. And have a beautiful Valentine's Day with your husband. And everybody, it's been a wonderful pleasure. Everybody, Joey, Ishmael, Rosemary, Mohan, and the new caller, whoever that is, down there, 1976. I don't know who that is. But hello, caller. See you down there. And everybody in the chat room, Andrew, and Manas, Bo, Tanjira, Vicky, and everybody who is listening in the archives, and the future people, and those that are listening on Facebook right now. And I will go ahead and end this 10 seconds. So, Are you there, Santara?